I'll turn my ringer off my phone. That'll probably help.
Thinking about life and how many of your goals you have achieved, wondering how embracing your purpose will enable success? Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Join our co-sponsors, Dom Dev Enterprises and Page Investments, and our friends at Something to Think About. Ask your questions, tell us where you are, share, and let everybody know we are live and in living color. Right now, we're going to ask you to post your questions, as we said, and when we come right back, we will have our special guest for this evening.
Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. What you think, we become. What we attract, we radiate. And what we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 2 for 2. So this evening we have the special fellow here up on the screen. Some people say that's my twin. I don't know why they say that, but I don't know. But anyway, we can get to that in a second. But Ron Butler, some of us know him from a long time ago as Ronnie Butler Jr. Some of us know us as Ronnie, all kind of different names. And, back then it was things happen. And so, welcome, Ron Butler. What name would you want me to call you today?
Ronnie, man.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. No, Ron Butler is the name that was on my resume when I first started acting. Because when I first started, I believe there was another Ronnie in around. Everyone, all my agents and everything called me Ron. So that's the name that went on as my professional name. But right. I only get called that in professional environments and credits. Otherwise, everybody calls me Ronnie.
Yeah, but I was practicing how to call you Ron, and I was like, what?
Yeah, and it sounds too strange. Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, Ron and Bristol. That's the only Ron I could say Ron. That's another classmate.
Hey, so, Happy, can I just interrupt you and ask, because I'm having people texting me right now going, how do they get to see the podcast right now? So what do I tell them?
That link I sent you with the 2 links at the bottom.
Okay.
The thing, if you give that to them, they will have it. Or if they search for Dale Happy Knowles, Something to Think, it will come up.
I'm going to send it out YouTube? Right now.
Yeah.
Some more.
So Ronnie is based in LA, and he has over 100 films, theater, television credits, etc. And you have a number of people have tipped the hat to you. The Independent Filmmakers Project, I think they changed their name recently, or they did some work for HBO. Then you also are the writer, a director, a producer. You do narrations, a bunch of stuff. You could talk about some of those things. But you work a lot with Norman Lear and Brent Miller. And I've heard those names through my son before, who was an artist, when he was into film portion.
Yeah, Norman.
Good or bad, but
Norman is mostly known for people our age when we were growing up, from these old sitcoms on TV like The Jeffersons and All in the Family. All these shows. He had at one point I believe 6 or 8 shows on primetime television all at the same time. He is the king of television comedy.
Okay.
And not just funny, but also social satire, right? If you remember, the Jeffersons dealt with issues of race and interracial relationships, and it was funny, but it was always about something, right? It had an edge to it, and that's what he was known for. And he saw his sort of co-producer is a much younger guy named Brent Miller, saw my Obama video on YouTube when I did it many years ago. and he showed it to Norman, and they called me at my house. They called my agent and got my phone number. And I mean, for people who are our age who know how famous this man is, this would be like Oprah calling your mother, right?
Okay.
I mean, it was like I answered the phone, and this man said, he was Norman Lear, and I was like, right, whatever, and I was about to hang up the phone. But anyway, long story short is I had the presence of mind to ask him to meet me at his office. And that was the beginning of a relationship. And later I had an idea for a short film, and I pitched it, and they said yes, and they wrote me a check, and I made it. And they've hired me to be, to direct small projects for them, and to be involved in promoting new TV shows. And it's been a nice relationship. And Brent has become a good personal friend as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Awesome. And so you also have some accolades here with the multiple narrations of the Earphone Awards, and then you have the Society of Vocal Arts and Sciences, and then you have the Audi. That's how you pronounce that one?
Audi.
Audi Awards. I mean, people bigging you up all over.
I know. I'm flattered, and I'm very honored. When I worked on this TV show called True Jackson. It was a regular job for me for about the 3 seasons that it was. And they shot on the lot at Paramount. So I mean, I was living the life. I drove onto the lot every day, parked in the Paramount lot, parked in the it's called the tank, but it's where they shot Jaws, the exterior shots for Jaws and the mechanical shark, but now it's a parking lot.
Right.
And I did that. And when that show ended, I went back to, having one job a month here, TV job, 2 or 3 jobs a month there. And I ended up having an opportunity to do an audiobook. And I thought at the beginning that it was just going to be a side gig, but it was something that it uses all the skills that I had developed over all the years. And
we can talk about your skills. We want you to dive into that.
Okay.
There's a lot of people around here who have skills and don't know they have skills.
Yeah. Recognizing your skills is a big part of being successful. Listening to what people keep telling you and what people ask you to do, and how, what they want from you is the universe saying to you, this is what we want to hear from you. This is what your talents are.
But so we can dive into that, but I gotta say this because I can get fussed out if I don't say this. You are a proud member of the QC Queens College class of 1980.
QC in the house.
Yes, comments as they say after we left. But anyway, and they only wish that they look as good as we look today.
Amen.
If they could get to this far and still look like this. But something big when we were in school at QC was that we had a principal, and it continued on, Mr. Middleton, who pressed in our brains. I think it will never leave my head. This statement, "Manners maketh man."
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were going to say because all of us know it. All of us know it.
And I think that is a cornerstone that allows us to be successful in many, many, many things we do, because it opens doors that many people don't get open just because they don't have manners.
Kindness and respect. Kindness and respect go a long way. And to quote another person in addition to Mr. Middleton, Maya Angelou says that people may forget what you say, people may forget what you do, but people will never forget how you make them feel. Right. And simple manners, simple kindness, even in business negotiations, goes a very long way, because people remember that. People remember that in comparison to all the bad behavior there is. And there's a lot of bad behavior in entertainment and in the creative arts. There's a lot of ego and there's a lot of narcissism. It's difficult. It's difficult to be a creative person without going inward, so you have to sort of balance that out with exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And another thing that we gained a lot from that school was that back then, I don't know how much it is still today, because I haven't badly not gone to visit recently. Well, COVID helped. I could use the COVID excuse.
Okay, go with that.
Yeah. But it was a multifaceted school, and so we had a lot of academics, all of the traditional, the sciences, and everything else. And then we also had they drilled you with the sports, even though we mightn't have been that great overall in all sports, but craft and I don't know what you call it, home economics and all that
Yeah,
kind of
home
stuff.
ec. We called it,
Yeah,
then it was called cookery. It was cookery and
cookery,
needlework.
right, and art and all those things. So it made you a rounded person and allowed you to have
Absolutely.
conversations beyond just what the compass is on at that specific point in time, right?
Yeah, and I remember too. I mean, there was a little bit of, at least with some of the faculty, some of the teachers, there was an openness and a flexibility, especially in the art department. Because I remember being in
Right.
the art. I mean, being in the drawing and painting
Yep.
semester that we had, and it wasn't my strength, and I really couldn't find my way in it. And the teacher at the time, his name was Mr. Pickersgill. I don't know if you
Skill.
remember Mr. Pickersgill.
I was
And
looking at a picture of him the other day,
I
actually.
saw I was showing some photographs to a friend of mine in class, and he was a big camera buff, and he said, "Let me
Right.
see those." And he said, "Well, do you have any interest in photography?" And I said, "Yeah, actually." And he gave me his camera, and he said, "Instead of sitting here, forcing yourself trying to draw, I want you to spend this double period. I want you to go around and take some pictures." And I did, and that turned into to me doing photography for my creative arts. You
Right.
know, which
Right.
which in turn led to me understanding storytelling in pictures, right? Which
Right.
is what you do as a director, and which is what you do as an actor when you're working on camera. You
Right.
know,
Right.
so all from way back then.
Right. And which I am play dabbling with this show and whatever else happens. So
Exactly.
I just listen to stuff that you all do. I listen to your what your videos, what you talk and how you talk, and I listen to some local persons as to who, and I trying to grab little nuggets here and there to see if what I'm saying is making sense or coming across right. Right. Well, Earl Nightingale, that's a guy from way back when my mom
Hmm.
was generation. But he says that success is really nothing more than the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. This means that any person who knows what they are doing and where they are going is success. So, and I also add to that people often compare what they see of others' success and
Hmm.
then superimpose themselves in that space and say that if they had what that other person had, then they would be successful. But and me being a baseball player and everything, our coaches always told us that success starts from within. It's not what you get from outside. So, what's your perspective on that?
I think I mean I agree. I think it's about, well, it's two things. You can't compare your gifts to somebody else's gifts, and I think that's the thing when you're talking about like comparing your success to somebody else's success. I
Right.
mean, I think when I first started studying acting, I was thinking, oh, I'm not as good as, I don't know, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro or Meryl Streep. I'm not as good as those
Well,
people.
you're picking
But the
some
thing
good names.
is, I'm not those people.
Right.
That me comparing myself to them, putting the bar that place doesn't make sense, because it doesn't take into account my specific skills and who I am as a person and what I bring to the artistic table, right?
Right.
What's more important is having, I think what you said, the word is vision, right?
Right.
Where do I want to go? What do I want to create? And who do I want to be? And you put that out in front of you, looking for where the camera is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that out in front of you, right? You have to have vision, right? Vision creates clarity. When you know what you want, when you have a vision, a goal, right?
Right.
And then and you know in your heart that that's what you want. That's how you get there. But you can't
Right.
have it without a very specific goals. Being specific is key to it. Is key to vision, right? And then of course being open to how you get there, because you may not control how you get there,
Right.
right? You want to be at this place where you're creating every day, where you're getting paid to create every day, where you're working in whatever field it is. It doesn't have to be creative, right? It could be, I want to have a business where I own a fleet of fishing boats.
Right. Okay.
you know, but knowing that that's where you want to be, right? And that, and it's in your heart that you want to get there. It has to be connected to your passion. That's the word I'm looking for, right? Vision, where you're going, and passion, which lives in you. And then letting the road open up and being open to where the road takes you. Not, you can't control how you get there. Let go of that.
Yeah. And then the people that the good fellow put in you will come out, and then people want to be a part of you. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's fantastic.
Right. But in media now, media plays this role that where it bridges this gap between where this wish list that people have. And when I say media, I'm talking about all of the creatives, whether it's whatever is the visual arts out there and so forth. Right. And so which is easy to create an illusion that they have. And so the question I'd ask then is, how easy is it to create that illusion? So when you're doing media, because you basically, well, let me ask you the question. When you do your satires and the like, what is the ultimate goal for the audience? What is it that you're seeking for the audience to gain from that?
That's a really good question. For me, when I'm doing like social satire, like the Obama video or the photographs of your junk video, where I'm satirizing what's going on in our culture, you know, what I want to do is point out, you know, that the emperor has no clothes, right? I want to wake us up to see this is what's going on, and using humor as a way to open the door to seeing what's right in front of us. And so it's two things. It's me expressing how I am seeing the world, right? And finding the common thread that other people can relate to. So it's a way of also connecting us, right? So people who are watching can see, oh yeah, that is what's going on in the world, and I see it the same way as he does. We share that. So it's about both me being a creative person and taking stock of what's going on in the world, and also doing my best to invite others to have the same vision. And I see your green screen, but I don't see.
Yeah, I see my green screen come. I don't know why I went green. None. So, I'm back again. But
yeah,
maybe
I am too.
But anyway,
and it's much bigger than yours now.
Producer checks on that. But what you gotta change it. What I would say is, as you mentioned that, then is that in creating that illusion, and what I'm referring to as illusion is making that connection and shrinking that, so like you said, that the person can be where you are, kind of thing. So does creating this does a creative have to be special to do this? We already talked about a couple of names you threw up down before, and being yourself versus having to duplicate somebody else. Those people are considered to be very special in the cinema space.
I mean,
so
I think
does somebody have to be special to be a creative?
I think well, I think it's all what we mean by the word special. I think the specialness, right, is what often what those people have that I mentioned. That's just, you know, a couple of people. And what came to me, and it came to me much later in life. I really didn't sort of start my creative stride until I was almost 30, you know. And part of that is the specialness is really, really embracing your individuality, embracing who you are as different from everybody else, and being confident in those differences and confident in your point of view. Because that's what it is about creativity, right? The creatives they're being fully and authentically themselves, or expressing their own point of view fully and authentically in whatever art form or media they're doing it in. And what's interesting is that by being more personal and authentic, it actually connects with a wider audience, as opposed to trying to go, what does my audience want to see? What do they want to see? So many people, let's give an example. So many people nowadays are on Twitter. I mean, on TikTok, right? And Instagram Reels, and they're trying to second guess what the audience wants, right? One person gets a viral video, and then everybody tries to figure out, well, what can I do that's similar? Let me try to project, and then I'm going to create that. And that is rarely successful, right? what happens, what actually is more successful is when people are authentically themselves, communicate what they want to and who they are authentically, and that actually creates a broader impact and connects to more people. So that's what I think special means.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And that is good, because that's from the other angle where people think that special, particularly Bahamians, think that special mean that you have to have some great attributes and academics or some special training or be privileged or something like that, whereas special is from within.
It is from within. I think to add another thing, I would think the specialness is that you have to have a passion for what you want to express. You have to have a passion for it. That's something that that no one else can give you, and that's something that no amount of training can create or give you. Do you know what I mean? There are many talented people who don't have a passion for expressing it and a passion for pursuing their creativity or for pursuing their goals. Going back to it, it doesn't have to be a creative thing, right? It can be a business thing too. If you don't have a passion about it, then no amount of gifts, which is I think what you're talking about, right? The gift of education, the gift of having money, a family that supports you, so you don't have to worry about where the money's coming from.
Right,
you know,
all of that. Yeah.
I've worked with many people who have grown up with nothing and who have grown up very wealthy, and they're both just as successful in this business. Right.
Cool. Okay, and so what would you say is the most important thing for your success that has caused you to be successful? I know you said passion and the rest of it, but besides those, let's take those off the table. And what else would be a driver?
Persistence. And
yes, sure. I'm sure that's on the list for
you. It really is, because well, I'm gonna say a couple of things. One is persistence, because the path has a lot of obstacles. Everybody's path has obstacles. Once again, no matter what your goal is, I'm going to talk broadly, not just in terms of creative arts, but business as well. There are a lot of obstacles that could come up, and you have to have persistence. This is once again where passion comes into play, because your passion lets you ride the obstacle, right? Lets you figure out a way to overcome the obstacle. And and I'm not sure who I can attribute this quote to, but I believe it's both a quote and a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way," right? And if you're on the right path when there's obstacles, right? So persistence to override those obstacles. The first agent that I had in Washington D.C. tried to talk me out of being in show business. And I had agents all through my career when I was working in film and TV and theater tell me it's going to be hard for you to get a job. You're probably not going to work much. All these things, a lot of naysayers, a lot of haters, people would say now. They weren't particularly hating on me. They were just saying what they thought what the reality of the marketplace was. But I believe that there was a place for me. It took me a longer time to find it because they were right. It was just a smaller niche, right? But it took me a while to find it, and that was persistence. The other thing would be, besides persistence, is listening to what feedback you're getting from people. Right? Because sometimes people will say, you might go, well, I really want to build boats. That's my passion. Right. But you're doing this thing on the side where you're like, you're not building boats, but you're building cabinets. Right. Let's say, for example, and someone says, your cabinets are astonishing, man. I want you to, I know you're working on this boat. Will you come over to my house for the next 5 weekends and build my kitchen, right? And you say, okay, and you do that, right? And people go over to that person's house, and they call you up, and all of a sudden you're getting all these calls because people see the beauty and the exquisiteness in that particular thing that you do. And it's the same kind of work, but it looks different on the outside, but it's the same kind of work on the inside. And having the openness to see that and to understand that. In other words, to listen to what the world is saying. It sees you, sees what you do well, and wants it from you. That's really important too, right? Because you want to give that gift, right? Because that's your gift. Those are your gifts. And sometimes we get tracked into, well, you know, I want to be a Broadway star. I want to be a Broadway star, right? And the world is saying, oh my God, you're such a great soap opera actor. Can we have you in a soap opera, please? Right? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Listening.
Right.
Listening.
And so when we look at that now, when you left school, if I remember right.
Yes.
Oh, when we left school, well, first of all, you were a scholar. You know, you were a prankster like us too, but you still was the scholar. You was in the top tier of the school.
I did well in high school. I studied a little bit.
Yeah. Don't be modest. And so you, I can't remember if it was you who wanted to do something with ships with my mom those or somebody else, or but your parents wanted you to do something different.
Yeah.
And when you went off, and it took a while before you found your way back into what you really wanted to do, which is what you're doing now.
It was a long time. It was a good, you know, 10 years almost. Yeah. I went and got a regular job. I went to college. I studied history and economics, and I went and worked for a international trade law firm doing economic analysis of all things. And I did it full time for 6 years.
You were not happy doing that?
No, you know what? I was happy doing it, but it wasn't fulfilling in the same way.
Okay.
I'm really good at figuring out a way to enjoy wherever I'm at. And that was my struggle because it was too easy for me to forget what my vision was, because I can make myself comfortable anywhere. Right. But over the years, I was like, I want to be on. I want to be
driving you where you wanted to go. Right.
I want to be on the stage. But can I tell you that whole experience of working in a corporate environment, when I started working on TV, especially, I booked those jobs easily all the time. Doctor, lawyer, accountant, all those things, because I lived in that world and I knew how to wear those clothes and be comfortable and you know, and most actors,
in a minute.
A lot of my competition, they could act, but once they had to put on a suit and everything, they sort of got trapped in it. And I was like, oh, I know it. These are just clothes.
Right. Yeah. And so when we look at that, then you have your specific gifts. What would they be? What if somebody was to say, they look at you and say, what would your specific gifts be? So people would know, for the type of work you do, what might be some of the things. If they have those same gifts, what you do might be something that might want to explore. Yeah.
I would say my voice, which I inherited. So we have to thank Mr. Ronnie Butler for that. And also the comfort of another gift would be my comfort on being on stage and in front of people. Speaking in front of people came easily and comfortably. That wasn't something that I had to get over. You know, being in the center and being in the spotlight was not something that I had to become comfortable with. Which as a stage actor is something that you need. And my love of storytelling, because ultimately in all the performing arts, being able to understand story and how you fit into the story is really important. That's something that you can learn. That's not something you have to be born with. That's something that you can learn.
But that's all right. We have plenty of people who have that gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big time already.
Yeah. It's interesting. No matter how crazy the world gets or how simple the world gets, we all love hearing stories. Everything we do is about stories. You know, all the stuff, the TikTok, all the stuff on Instagram Reels. They're small, but it's all about telling stories. Right. All the movies, all the TV, all the songs. It's all storytelling.
Yeah. Well, those stories got us out, or at least got me out of plenty of trouble.
Yeah.
So, how did you go about tuning your skills for this? You talked about what you were gifted with when you were
Yeah.
born, but
So
then
I
there's other
I
skills associated with it. Yeah.
yeah. So those gifts are what we call raw materials, and so
Right.
then I went to train. Right, I wanted to train them. So actually, when I was living at home, when we were in high school, I actually took a workshop one summer at the Dundas,
Okay.
um, and studied acting, studied with Philip Burrows, who had studied at the American Academy of the Dramatic Arts in New York. And he led a summer workshop where we learned some of the elements of method acting, and that was the beginning of my foundation.
Right.
Singing with the choir at QC, right? Because when I eventually ended up in New York, most of what I did in New York was musical theater, where I was singing.
Right.
And to do that, it's not like singing. It's not like singing with a band,
Right.
alone in a microphone. You've got to learn music, and you've got to learn parts, and that began at QC. In music theory class and in singing with choir. But
Right.
I'm sorry. So when I decided to jump into it when I was living in DC, I started studying acting privately with a woman who taught at Howard, and she was my acting coach, and that's when I started getting jobs and working and working. I also studied movement, and I also studied dance, because they do a lot of those things in musicals. And then when I moved to New York, before this 3 summers before I moved to New York, I spent 3 summers studying with a theater company in New England, where all I did was every day intensively for the entire summer was speech and diction, voice, movement, scene work, studying plays, doing scenes, performing, basically getting a second education, but completely in the creative arts.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So that's how I did that. And then experience. There's stuff that you just don't learn until you're in front of a camera or on a stage, and it's just you just don't learn it till then.
Right. And so you talked about things that drive you in terms of passion and being authentic and the rest of those things, and what you're doing now and finding your niche. I call all of that your purpose in life. And so how did you know what was your purpose? How would when you're doing these things? For me, I think it's when you feel like you're at peace or you're happy or you're mellow or whatever about it. It's not putting you in a state of flux and turmoil and everything. Then those are things that is a part of your purpose. What's your view on that and so forth?
I would say when you're living your purpose, for me, it's another way of saying that is that you find your lane, and the obstacles that I talked about earlier just sort of fall by the wayside. It becomes easy. Not the work is necessarily easy, but all the stuff that used to get in the way just falls by the wayside, and stuff just comes to you because you're in the center of where you're supposed to be. It's like no one's going to understand that except people my age. I'm just going to use a metaphor of a record needle on a record and finding the groove in a record. But they're not younger people won't know that reference. But the idea of finding your groove, when you're in the groove, right? It's like being in the eye of the storm. It's quiet and it just happens. It simply happens, and that's how you know you're in your spot.
Yeah, that's why I say it's peace.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah. So, Madam Producer, could you drop that first video on the screen for our audience so that we can see some of this talented gentleman in front of me? Man, who knows? All them years back, we'd be talking about him.
I know. I didn't.
Big screens and all kind of stuff. It's the one right next to me. It should be next to me or next to you.
I'm curious as to what clip you're going to show. I have no idea.
Odd. It's near your place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this didn't kill him, but I'd sure like to know what it is. It started eating the flesh, which is accelerating the putrefaction process. Coach Owens is urging the parents not to let you people talk to our kids. But Harold's no saint. And if he did something, I want to know about it. Looking at his cranial MRI, it's clean. No tumors, no aneurysms, EEG normal. Did you test him for meningitis?
I did a lumbar puncture and it came back negative.
I don't see a physiological reason for his symptoms.
Pretty girl, just like you. You believe in Jesus as your personal savior?
Excuse me,
You better believe. Because just as real as that Jesus is, you better believe the devil just as real. You ain't gotta be afraid.
Let me turn on the lights in here. Bill Gates parks his helicopter on the roof of this building when he visits the city. Bono is a regular at the sushi bar, and I've never heard of you, or the McMillans.
My money is as good as anybody's.
It's not, actually. You're a first-time dealer with second-rate clients. I wish you'd been more forthcoming when you called. I wouldn't have wasted your time. Don't tell me this is a virus or evolution or whatever. This is deliberate intervention. I mean, all of us have been changed by design.
But how? Who could do this?
Well, who's got the technology? Simple answer. No one on this earth.
Awesome. Man, listen, that's just a touch of it. That's
a little clip, a little taste. Mm-hmm. Wow. But you saw what I was saying. You see how many doctors there were in that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For the first 2 or 3 years I worked in TV, it was all doctors. In fact, my friends started calling me Dr. Ron. But that's just because I was used to, saying a lot of big words because of the job I had before then.
Yeah, see, people, I tell you, he was the top of the class. Them big words. You never can use no big words. So some other clips you have some really big words. And I was like, whoa, yeah, so forth. So tell us before we take this, go to the break. What a day would look like in the life of Ronnie Butler Jr.
You mean currently or in the day of those clips?
When you do work, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Currently.
Yeah.
Well, right now...
Or during those periods, whichever one is most exciting for people to get inspired.
Yeah, well, why not both quickly? So, in the day when I was doing mostly television, most of every day was running around auditioning, or preparing for an audition. So for most of those TV jobs, except for the big ones, a job where you would get work for a day or a couple of days or a week, you would get the script or the audition sides, they're called. You get the audition sides if you were lucky the day before. If you were lucky 2 days before, right? If you were really lucky, you get them on a Friday and your audition was Monday. But lots of times you get them on like a Thursday and your audition was Friday, And so whatever you're doing, everything comes to a halt so you can spend time preparing for the audition. And then the day of the audition, you run around, you do your errands or whatever, but then you drive to the studio. You have to get a pass. You go on the lot, you wait in a room, you sign a thing, you walk in the door, you audition. Normally there's 2 or 3 auditions. Sometimes they're on the same day. So you leave and then 20 minutes later, your agent calls and says, okay, you've got a call back. You're going to go back and the first audition is for the casting director. The next set of auditions is for the producers. You go back, there's 8 people in the room, and you do the same thing you did before, but you do it live in front of those 8 people, and then they decide. And that was a typical day. You do that maybe, if you were lucky, you'd do that a couple times a week, because you'd have to do it a couple times a week to get at least one job, right? If you're lucky. Today, my days are mostly, I am 100% voiceover and audiobook narration. I have my own vocal booth here in the house. And my day is, I get up and I go to the gym and I maybe run whatever errands, but I go in that booth and I record for anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. And that's my day. Cool. Simple as that.
All right. Well, maybe we'll see the booth after the break.
Sure. I'd give you a tour of the booth.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, you're listening to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knows, and we're here with Ronnie Butler Jr., who's better known as Ron Butler in his space as we go forward. And we here talking about embracing your purpose so that you can be successful, and I think that's very key and important. So, Madam Producer, we'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
Behind every scoop, lick, and savor is a smile and memory being made or reminisced. Whether you're at work, out with family on a Sunday, or have friends visiting, flavor will meet expectations in our 32-ounce container for only $10 if you're having a special event as well. Exotic flavors ranging from soursop to Guinness is definitely worthwhile.
Well, Mr. President, the numbers say there's a disconnect between the reality of what you've accomplished and the public's perception. The people think you're failing to be the model of modern reform and change that they were promised.
Really? I disagree.
I am the very model of a modern U.S. president, a liberal one at first, but now it seems I have a centrist bent, and though my popularity has waned, I am not hesitant to say I've done quite well so far, although I lacked experience. We pulled the country back from cataclysmic economic woes. We're fighting in Afghanistan and focused on our deadly foes. In short, I'm firm about my goals and vow that I shall stick to them. And though I'm black, Joe Biden says I'm clean and quite articulate. And though he's black, Joe Biden says he's clean and quite articulate. And though he's black, Joe Biden says he's clean and quite articulate. And though he's black, Joe Biden says he's very clean and quite articulate. In spite of special interest, I have pushed through major health reform. The country was in uproar. Who'd have thought it'd cause a major storm? By fighting to give basic health care to each citizen for free, I inadvertently gave rise and reason to the Tea Party. The issue is divisive. I have made a lot of enemies. A congressman lost his control and even said you lied to me. But listen, cause the odds are 10 to 1. It is a certain bet. The only time I lie is when I say I don't smoke cigarettes. The only time he lies is when he says he's with the cigarettes. The only time he lies is when he says he's with the cigarettes. The job is stressful, so get all this back. He needs a tiny cigarette. I'm too ambitious. Critics say my expectations are too grand. But if we cannot rise to this occasion, I think no one can. It's tough not pleasing everyone. I'm just a man. I do my job. If Sarah Palin shoots her mouth off one more time, so help me God. The corporate greed, the BP spill, and rising unemployment costs. Extremist right fanatics, immigration, where to put a mosque. And in between, I kiss Michelle and hang out with my daughters, too. I even walk the dog sometimes and clean up stinky doggy poo. The hardest thing about his job is cleaning up the doggy. He needs the reroll and he's also picking up his doggy's poo. He's got the password for the bombing and he's scooping stinky doggy poo. I hearken unto Lincoln and I still believe in compromise. I just require sanity and reason from the other side. So take my word and don't believe a single thing Fox News has said. I am the very model of a modern U.S. president. So take his word and don't believe a single thing Fox News has said. He is the very model of a modern U.S. president.
Wow.
Awesome stuff, man.
Can I just mention something we were talking about earlier to connect it to that video thing, which is, remember I said you have to have sort of a vision for where you want to go, but you have to let go of the how you're going to get there, right? And listen to the messages that you're getting. So a lot of people, if they were given a lot of actors in LA, if offered the opportunity to do a lookalike, to do a lookalike work, would turn their nose up at it, would be like, no, that's not acting. That's not what I want to do. Right. That's not going to help me with my career. But I literally was in a grocery store Oh no. I was in a casting director workshop, and two actresses turned around to me and said, "Has anybody ever told you you look like you favor Barack Obama?" And I said,
Right.
"Who?" This was a year before he was elected.
Right.
And they said, "You should send your picture to Jimmy Kimmel, to the casting people at Jimmy Kimmel, and tell them people tell you you look like Obama, because I bet they'll be doing sketches, little funny sketches."
Right.
And so I told my manager, she did it. And a month later, I did a sketch on Jimmy Kimmel. I met a woman who was a Hillary Clinton impersonator. She invited me to a lookalike convention. I went and I started doing that work. And once again, a lot of people have said, it's not acting. And I was like, well, it's acting if I make it acting, if I approach it that way. And then, 8 years later, not 8 years later, 4 years later, I made that video, and that got me introduced to Brent Miller. And it also went viral on every single news program, every single thing. It changed my life and changed my career. And it's because I was willing to let go of this idea that it can only happen in a certain way, that the road is only one way, right?
Right. So Ralph Cole and I thought somebody else I saw pop up there was giving you love for the.
Thank you. I see Ralph Cole and Devon. Thank you very, very much. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Ken Blanchard says that profit is the applause you get for taking care of your customers. Well, I would always say that this imitating that you did of President Obama, and not just this piece, but some other pieces that I've seen, you really getting applause from your audience because you took care of your audience. You made that connection as to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
With them, I think a lot of people, and you see from here on the show, and actually this is a classmate of ours too. She changed her name on me. That's Yvette Raleigh. How you pronounce that? Schubert? Yeah. Hello, Yvette. How you doing? Good to see you. Yes, QC in the house.
Hey,
yes,
Yvette.
very much so. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I could tell you some stories about Yvette too, but I ain't. Yeah, we all had a lot of fun in school. Obama reference to walking the dog. Yes, that stood out with me too, Ralph. When I saw the video for the first time, I was like, yeah, that's a real president. Cool. So, and how gratifying is it in receiving applause for your work?
I mean, it feels great. It feels wonderful. It's short-lived though. Applause is there's an endorphin rush. It's like, why people look on their Instagram to see a like, and every time they see another like, you get that little, I'm sorry, not endorphin, dopamine hit, right? You get that little hit, and applause is like that, but it goes away. It goes away quickly, right? What is really wonderful and meaningful for me is I'll have people reach out. Gosh, I got an email from, I worked with a guy on an audiobook. He had a small part. It was something for Audible. It's more like a radio drama, right? It was a story with many people in it. And 2 months later, like last week, he emailed me and he said, he goes, I just watched Everyday People on HBO. And he said, and your work was so wonderful. And that scene that you did with the guy where you told him blah, 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 he goes, it was such wonderful work. And I just want to thank you for that work and acknowledge that kind of thing. Or when somebody gets on social media and says, I just listened to this book and you broke my heart and put it back together again, that stays with me, because that means that I've impacted you beyond just a hand clap. It's like I felt like I did my job. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to move you enough to where you changed your life, or you changed the way you thought about something, or you opened your mind up to something, or you felt less alone. And that is incredibly gratifying.
Yeah, and I think that's what Ken Blanchard is talking about, stuff like that as a whole. Because, I mean, if you read his books and stuff, that he might say something, but it means a lot more than what he's actually saying when we picture the picture. So now you have all of these awards. that people
Yes.
put on your shelf and
Yes.
so forth. And I know you saw the models in when you're back in school. And I don't know about now, but the tell us about those though. The different awards you have, the IFP, the SOVAS, and
Sure.
so
The
forth. Yeah.
the IFP award, which is an independent film award. That was for the movie I just mentioned, Everyday People, which is it's old. We shot that in 2004. So
Okay.
I was working at Disneyland at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like another thing, a lot of people would have said, you know, you're a working actor, don't go work in a theme park, you know.
Right.
But working at Disneyland was allowed me to transition to being in LA,
Right.
and that changed my entire career. If I wouldn't have taken that job in Disneyland, I probably never would have moved to LA, and I would never have been on True Jackson. And those
Right.
things changed my life, right?
Right.
So that's the IFP was for the entire cast. It was because it was a very collaborative film, an ensemble cast. In my work as a narrator, there are two major awards. There are the Earphone Awards, which happen periodically, and then there are the Audies, which would have been called like the Oscars of our world. I have been fortunate enough to have about, I don't know, 17 or 18 Earphone Awards. Many of those were books by myself, some with myself and one other person, some with an ensemble cast. And I've also been nominated for, so lost count, I think I'm nominated for eight or 12 Audies. Once again, a combination of some by myself with other people and ensemble cast. So I feel once again, you know, it's lucky, but it's an affirmation that I'm in the right place and that I'm doing the right kind of work because people are responding to it, and it means that I'm, you know, fulfilling my purpose as a storyteller and a performer.
Right. So, folks out there, if you have any questions or comments, then do drop them in the put in the chat, and then we'll endeavor to answer them.
Please.
The good president will.
I think what Ralph was referring to when Obama referred to the dog walking is that people often ask me if well, first of all, I've never met him, but people always ask me, did you ever get to meet him? I did not get to meet him. And they ask me, do you think he ever saw the video? And I say, I believe he did. And here's how I know or think I know that he did. Because as I mentioned to you, I worked in DC. And when the video came out, a friend of mine, I called people all over. I was pushing the video, you know, and I called one of my former colleagues in the law office in DC. And he said, oh, you know what? I have a friend who's on Obama's staff. I'm going to send him the link. You know, I'm going to send it to him this morning. And then he called me back and he said, I sent it to him and he loved it. He says he's going to try to get Obama to look at it. Well, the following day, Obama was in Massachusetts for something, and he was supposed to stay for dinner, but he couldn't, and he was leaving. And at the press conference, they said, why are you leaving? And he said, oh, I have to go home and scoop up the poop. And I was like, okay, we all were like, there's no reason he would say that unless he had seen the video, right? So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, your colleagues, your producer is very kindly saying where people can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm Ronnie Butler JR for Ronnie Butler Jr. On Instagram, I'm Ronnie Butler. On TikTok, I'm Ronnie Butler Jr. Yeah, I'm easy to find.
Cool, all of those. So what works for you most? Or what works are you most pleased with?
You mean in terms of my accomplishments?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh.
What you, I mean, you a lot
yeah.
of people in the Bahamas don't know what you did, but I mean, it's
I think from each stage of my career, there's different things that I'm most proud of. So when I was living in New York, I was fortunate enough to do a revival of a Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim musical called Merrily We Roll Along. Okay. And I worked with some wonderfully talented people, all of whom have become huge sort of Broadway stars at this point. And we were all sort of young and coming up together. I was very proud of to even make it to work with those people when they all had been doing musicals and theater their whole lives, and I came to it so late in life. So I'm very proud that I managed to get in with them and hold my own. I'm really proud of the work I got to do. Actually, I just mentioned at Disneyland when I was doing Aladdin when it first started, because I started with a small part and I ended up understudying 3 of the main characters. And at one point I was the only genie, and I was doing the genie, 3 times a day, 6 days a week. And that opened up the whole world of improv. And I realized that I had this ability to think on my feet and be funny on my feet, and also write jokes and do them on the spur of the moment. So I was really proud of that. Then on TV, my work on True Jackson, because that was, no one had ever hired me to be funny before. And I grew up, I don't know if you remember, but I grew up in school trying to crack people up all the time. But my humor was not a slapstick. It was more of a smart funny. And that show let me do that. And they saw how I was funny, and they started writing it for me. Right. And they saw the way that I was. So I'm very proud of that work. And then now as a narrator, gosh, there's 2 or 3 books a year where I just I can't believe that I actually did them myself. Like I stand back and I go, I don't remember doing it, but I'm so glad I did, because people love it so much, and I feel really lucky to be doing that work.
Cool. Bless is the word.
Blessed is the word.
Cool. Well, I believe what I refer to your style of work or is what I call expressionism. And I say it's gifted around your voice, but it's potentiated by dramatics. I think, and your expressions on your face and antics of movements and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what makes people want to draw closer and closer to get to know more about your work. That's me. I call that your butter, right?
Okay, I like
that's
that.
what can keep you going. But in school, you always seemed to be shy about singing, even though you sang in the choir. But outside of that, you didn't seem like you wanted to do like how the band, because your dad was the big entertainer and stuff. You didn't want to do that type of work. So how did you find the significance of unleashing yourself, or the advantages that you had, these skills, these gifts, and stuff like that?
You're right about that, and that's probably the deep dive and the psychology of that is probably longer than we have time for now, in terms of why I wasn't singing then and there. I mean, I sang with him once or twice on stage, but what happened was when I moved to New York and I got an agent, or I met with an agent, the first thing my agent said was, "Can you sing?" And I was like, well, yeah, I can sing. I mean, I knew that I just assumed I had a good voice. Like, I thought I was like, yeah, I just said, yes, of course I can sing.
Never say no.
And exactly. And then I literally left and went and called 3 friends and said, okay, my gosh, I need a singing coach, because this agent wants me to bring something into his office next week and sing in his office. Right. And I had to find music, and it was a rush. But as it turns out, that's what opened up the world of singing. Right. Was that agent saying, I'm going to be able to get you a lot more work if you can sing, that if you can't. In fact, I can get you a lot more work. And that's what opened that door up. And like I said, I ran through it.
Right. Yeah. So Devon is saying, what was the most difficult decision you had to make in your career that still resonates with you today?
Oh my gosh. The most difficult, but that resonates with me today. I mean, the first thing that jumps out was leaving. In this career, you often work. You work with agents, right? And one of the most difficult things for me was understanding when my relationship with a particular agent was no longer fruitful for either of us, and leaving it and moving on was very, very difficult for me. And I think, and actually in the case of, my first two agents, I stayed in those relationships too long. I stayed in them past their due dates, and then it stopped being effective for me. And I think the way it resonates today is I think my career might have been different. It might have been more fruitful if I had the wherewithal to know that it was time to move on from them. That's something that it took me a long time to learn and to understand and to develop the bravery for. Because there's so much in entertainment business where you are at the whim of other people. It feels like you're at the whim of other people, and to have the wherewithal to go, no, I don't like this, I don't want this, and this isn't enough for me, and to know that you can say no and walk away, and there still will be another opportunity behind it.
Right.
It took me a long time to get to that place, and I think people are much more successful when they get to that place earlier, or when they start at that place.
That is very much true. I find that to be the case also. But I also find that if you reach a point quicker than you're supposed to reach, then you never learn from the mistakes or the challenges that you got as a result of it, and then you're going to repeat it.
That's true too.
It's going to be repeated, and so that extends delay of your success or finding your purpose also in the life. And so, cool. So, let me fast forward through that. What do you say to young creatives in charting their course? What would you say to them?
I would reiterate a couple of things we've already said. I would say, be true to yourself. Don't try to copy what you think is popular or what you think people want to hear, but say what you want to say. Be willing to have your own point of view and your own idea about your own creativity. Right. I would say, be persistent. Trust that trust that your purpose will come from being persistent, and that your purpose isn't measured by how many people necessarily respond, or how many likes you get, or how many claps you get. But as you said, Happy, it is measured by the sense of fulfillment and the sense of peace that you have around you as you pursue what you're going to do. And don't hesitate to get some skills if you feel like they will help you be better at what you do. And ask. Do not be afraid to ask. People like me, people like you, people who have already gone through it, ask for help. We all got help. I got help. Everybody gets help, in terms of whether it's just information or pointing in the right direction. There is a community, and not being too proud to ask for help, and then doing the work once you get the help.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned also earlier, which is what I always found to be key, is the art of listening, right? Because you could do all of that, and if you're not listening, it's like somebody get in the room and they just talking, but they're not listening to what other people are saying. But then they want to know why they're not elevating themselves. And somebody on the outside looking at you could see things that you don't see. And if you listen, that don't say you must accept everything, because you could throw away whatever, but you can't throw away if you didn't hear it in the first place, right?
That's a really good point. And so many acting coaches will say a big part of great acting is great listening, really being present and hearing what's being said, so that you're here in the present moment, not ahead of yourself, not trying to think of what you're going to say next, but really taking in what's going on right now, right? Really hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I took that little communications 101 or 102 or 105 or whatever number it was that we did when I was in nomad's land, where my mom was spending all the money and trying to figure out what I was doing in school. But, they always taught us that, you have to listen to what is said, what is not said, and the body language. And my mom always stressed that over and over and over and so forth. And so let's listen to another one of your pieces and
Oh,
see
okay.
if we get what is said, what's not said, and the body language in there. Madam Producer, you want to hit the second one there? That should be the comic one.
Oh, I'm excited.
Photographs of your junk will be publicized. The photographs of your junk.
Leave it. Okay, don't worry.
Oh, you want to do the comedy reel? Is that what you're doing?
Comedy one, yeah.
Okay.
Time's up.
Right.
Time. Sir,
I know.
time is.
I know it is. Girls.
What's all this commotion? I do not support commotion.
Rosie stole my secret site gift.
That's insane. Why would I do that?
Open your locker. This is already more time than I wanted to spend on students today. I broke Mr. Madigan's horse statue.
What? When?
4 years ago. Then again 2 years ago. And twice last month. And 6 times yesterday. I keep replacing them. Want one?
Okay, let's just cut to the chase.
I've gone through everything, and your problem isn't just this ludicrous organizational system. Your problem is income.
Meaning?
You need some.
Hey. So, what are you in for?
I beat my boss senseless with a foam scepter. I prefer you sat over there.
Sure. Dance party.
Oh boy.
That was so much
Doing
fun.
the things we watch.
I know.
Yes. Cool.
I think we must have done 10 or 15 takes of that dance party thing just because the producers like watching me do that silly dancing so much. We did it over and over and over again.
Well, you had another one on, I think it was on LinkedIn the other day that I thought was absolutely hilarious. I think where you went backwards and then you went to the wall. I can't remember
Was
how
it-
went, but was it LinkedIn?
Was it from True Jackson? What was it?
It might
Oh,
have been-
no. That was a TikTok. That was just
That
a
was
TikTok. Yeah. That was recently. Yeah.
That was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just me. One of the great things about one of the things that I use TikTok for and these other social medias for is that because even though I'm in the booth, every time I get an idea, a small, kooky, funny, or what I think is funny or creative idea that's small, I just knock it out and throw it up there, and it gives me joy and it gives other people joy, and it's just part of being creative for me. The fulfillment is I need to be making something every day. I need to create something every day.
Right.
And going from having the idea to then creating it physically and manifesting it outside of myself gives me incredible fulfillment. So
Cool. Awesome. So great people don't sit still. So what's next for Ronnie Butler Jr.? Are you
Okay.
going to do a ballad with your dad? You know how the
Oh my
Henry
gosh.
Cole and
and there's so
Nat
many
King
there's
Cole did their thing. Yeah.
yeah I don't know about that. I have a lot of footage that I taped of him. I didn't tape it actually. Charles Allen Smith did, Charlie Bahamas. And we taped a lot of interviews with a lot of people who knew him, and some footage of him and I, and trying to figure out what I want to do with that.
Right.
Even though it's been a few years since he passed, it still feels very close, and I'm just not ready to dive into that stuff yet.
Well, that's fine. Yeah.
But the other stuff that I'm doing, I'm in this world of narration, and I've actually been asked to do some writing. And so as opposed to just reading the stories, actually writing the stories and owning it, and then narrating my own writing is the next thing I'm going to do in terms of creativity.
So let me throw this out here right now.
Okay.
You could let me be your agent for it, but you can write the stories of the Bahamas so that the young children inside primary school and so forth can learn about real history with your character behind it, I think they will listen to it and grasp it versus somebody who's been to Harvard or Princeton or something speaking in proper English.
Okay, so are you willing to be a managing producer of this project or somehow
Well, I
shepherd
know
it?
somebody who can manage and produce it. I'll be the one in the front going beating down the walls to get it in front of
Get
them.
people
And
to
I know
listen to
somebody
it?
who could do
Okay.
it. Yeah, yeah. Cool. That'd be awesome. I think we need more of our own people doing stuff in that space
Yeah.
and so forth. And so if
Is there
you're
anybody,
interested,
and I don't know this, and this is where I'm, my bad, but is there anybody, I know that I read something, I did some audio narration for a children, I would say middle grade, like young children's book,
okay.
within the last couple of years. But are there many Bahamians writing stuff for children?
One time ago, before COVID and everything, I heard that there were some persons doing it, but the artists in the Bahamas seem to have been holding back on releasing content for a number of various reasons. Some of it has been unscrupulous activity. Some of it has been nobody really is paying attention to it, so they feel why they're going to do it, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. So you even had people, one went and pick up and went to Cuba and doing this stuff down there. Another one is in somewhere in the States that I know about, Alabama or someplace up in there.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, that's something I could explore for find out more about what's happening, why. But it seems like it's now becoming more, particularly around the election time, people were starting to write up. I'm not sure if that's going to continue. There was the scripts and stuff for the different candidates and some of their characters and some of their character flaws. Spyro and the rest of those used to write all kind of stories about
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Ronnie, what's his name? Not Ronnie, but Eddie Menace.
Yes.
Well, your dad too.
Yeah. It was social satire in music and song. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe, there's a lot of people out there. My son, who was on a while ago, who asked that question. He wants to be a DJ.
Wait a minute, that was your son?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he doesn't put his picture up on. I don't know why, but he doesn't. But anyway, yeah, he wants to be a special DJ. He doesn't want to be what we see all the time. But I don't know how to explain it. But he wants to have his own character behind.
Okay.
Bringing something different to the table. So he's just preparing himself in the background so that he could open up someday. They call him DJ Legend 242, I think, something like that. Cool. So, Madam
awesome.
Producer, you want to put up that one that we started to run the clip on, which the photos in the junk of funks. Yeah. I'll look at the camera. I'm being told to look at the camera. Oh, you want me to find it? It should be.
This is about sort of the unholy alliance between social media and
The photographs of your junk will be publicized. The photographs of your junk will be publicized.
And you wonder why little Susie is no longer traumatized by sites that are not sanitized. She too has been anesthetized by all the junk that's publicized. The revolution has been photoshopped to look gentler than it is. It is costing you $5 a gallon. It has been refuted, muted, and diluted like the news of your home's foreclosure. It has been appropriated, confiscated, and amalgamated. Much like your privacy, it has been hacked by the social network, connecting you and putting you to sleep. And all the little birds sing, tweet, 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 tweet.
All right. Now, folks, that's only a clip.
That's deep.
The whole thing, right? We can't play the whole thing because we'll be here for another half an hour to hour just talking about what
Yeah.
all is on the content of that, because there's a lot in that. I think it's about 3 or 5 minutes or something like that. Somewhere.
Yeah, it's just under, I think it's between 3 and 4, around 4 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these videos we're gonna put in the chat, so everybody
Oh,
can
thank you.
click on the link and get to view them. That particular one you listen to at your own approval. I can't put that in front of you to listen to. You have to choose
That one, that was one that that Norman Lear and Brent Miller executive produced. And when I say executive produced, I mean they wrote the check for it.
Right.
And there was a famous poet, a famous Black poet who's often called the proto rapper, like the first rapper, and his name was Gil Scott Heron. And he had a piece called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," and what it was about was how entertainment, speaking metaphorically, that entertainment and distraction, entertainment and things in the entertainment world, and alcohol and just everything that involves in entertainment and distraction was distracting, particularly Black people, from understanding how they were being downtrodden and kept under, right? And that, and it was meant to put them to sleep, metaphorically, right? And it was his birthday happened that that one year that I wrote that, and it was his birthday, and I was thinking a lot about that piece. And then directly after that, we had the summer where there were all these scandals that were going wild on social media, Tiger Woods and Arnold Schwarzenegger and that one boxer. And there was just like scandal after scandal after scandal. And it's all anybody cared about was scandal. And meanwhile, like I said, people were losing their homes. Right. The price of gas was $5. Now it's $6, right? But all of that was happening, and people were so busy paying attention to scandal that they weren't seeing how their rights were being stripped away from them. And because they were paying attention to the wrong thing, right? And that's what that piece was about waking us up, and not letting our engagement with social media and sort of our love of scandal and the way that, you get one thing and everybody runs and everybody gets mad about it for a week and then it's on to the next thing. Meanwhile, there are these things that have been going on forever that are slowly undercutting your rights and your humanity. And that's what that piece is about.
Awesome. Well, that's great, because I mean, that just shows that, the 242 have talent galore, and you are one of those leading the way in your space.
Oh, thank you very much.
In particular, and your narrations. We didn't have a narration per se to play for people, but I've seen you do one or two audiobooks, and that's where I get this thing about your expressionism and stuff like that, because just watching you is a story. You don't even have to listen to what you're saying. That keeps you going, keeps you afloat. Doing and tackling everything.
That's funny.
So Ralph is saying gas was $5 per gallon. Now it's $6. That's in the States, because here it's $6.30, $6.40.
No, that's about what it is here in Southern California. It's between $5.50 and $6.50, depending on what kind of gas you get.
Yeah, well, our one is just the one tier, high grade. We don't do any of the low grade stuff. Yeah, people don't realize that either. But anyhow,
I'm going to say thank you to DJ. Thank you to DJ Legend. I appreciate that. He also wants to let you know he's put his picture up.
Oh, okay, cool. Your story shows, a lot of guts and no fear in trying to do what you want to do. Props to you.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate that. Thank you.
When you come back in town, or when he's in your part of the world, then I'll let him.
Yeah, absolutely. Please connect us. Please, yeah.
Cool. All right.
And anybody listening or watching, can reach out to me on social media. I'm reachable. If I don't get back to you right away, it's just because I'm blessed with a lot of work or I'm swamped. If you don't hear back from me right away, don't take it personally. And if a week goes by and for some reason you haven't heard from me in a week, then just ping me again. It's just that I'm just overloaded. But if it takes me that long, that's the reason why. But I invite people to reach out to me. One of my cousins is second cousins, I guess, second or third cousins. He's the child of a cousin of mine. But he's been interested in pursuing acting, has been asking me how can he begin doing that in Nassau? What steps can he take to sort of begin studying or begin looking, or what can he do? And it's my pleasure to pass it on. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I can't wait for this next production, right? And so hopefully the Bahamas community will open the doors so that you could come do some stuff here. And
sure.
So we could inspire, because to me, about 60% of the population in the last general election was under 40.
Yeah.
And most of those are creatives, or come in the creative space, as they call them. But we're not maximizing that space, the potential that body of people provide. And so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? And hats off to people out there who are helping already in that space. Cool. So is there anything you want to say to the general public before we let you go?
Just that, well, I want to thank you for having me on and for talking. And it's nice to, this is the longest we've talked. Most of the time when we get together, it's with a lot of other classmates. So this is the most time we've had one-on-one. So it's a real pleasure. Even though I live here, because this is where my work is, and I still keep proximity to LA so that I'm able to do LA jobs from time to time. And able to have the career that I have. I miss home, and I am very, very proud to be a Bahamian. And it's something that it's one of the first things I tell people every time I meet them. And it's one of the things that has given me an edge in even in my narration work. The first couple of books I did, I got hired because I was from the Caribbean. And and they wouldn't have known that unless I told them that. I'm proud of my heritage, and any amount of opportunity I have to give back to where I come from, I want to. So please reach out, but please know that I love you and I love my home, and I'm just so happy that we got a chance to talk today.
Awesome, much appreciated, and thank you for taking the time to share with everybody, so that we could try and raise this lid and take this to a new level. And everybody around the world who reaches, who you touch, and your voice touches, and your work touches, we could raise, so we could build a better world, as Michael Jackson talks about.
That is my wish too. Thank you. I think that's a good wish.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody on social media, thank you kindly for joining us.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe. Be well, subscribe, like, follow, share, and if you want to watch more of the videos and so forth, and check out Ronnie on his different links that he had up earlier. You could just zoom back and see them, or click on them. We'll put them in the description also, so forth. Cool. What's that?
I was just saying, follow me.
Follow me. Yeah. Cool. So, Madam Producer,
take us out.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative 242